So welcome to Scrapbook Live. I am Megan Jax. Today is Wednesday, March 6th. And so God, we're just zipping right through 2024. I have to admit, I'm kind of excited about that. This is not the time of year that I like to linger on the days. It's been a little chilly here in Washington. We have some rain in the forecast and we've started sports. So that means I get to sit outdoors where it is wet and cold and windy. And yeah, not fond of that. I did tell my husband that I would much rather be sweating in 110-degree weather than sitting in 30-degree cold, wet, miserable wind weather to watch these sporting events. So we'll check in next summer on or later this fall on how I feel about that. Maybe I will change my mind after we've relocated to Arizona. But right now, I'm looking forward to that sunshine. So today's layout, I had a bit of deja scrap. I don't know. You know that thing when you're looking at these photos, and you're like, I think I've scrapbooked these before, but I couldn't find where. Normally with a lot of stuff I do take pictures and I'm sharing it on my website or I'm sharing it to Facebook. And I was like, I know I did these photos, but they were going to work for today's layout. I like, hey, this will work perfect. And then I went to my project folder for back to school. It's going to be some pictures of Cody starting school this past year for third grade. And I came across a handout from a beginning scrapbook virtual class that Tessa and I did. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I did it for. So I'm not going to re-scrap them. Then I had to kind of pivot last night. And thank goodness for my handy dandy Epson printer that I can print all these photos at home. So I went ahead and decided to I had some pictures of Kitty where, I don't know if you guys ever done this with your cats, where you will put the birds on TV, like YouTube channels that are just birds, like chirping and eating bird food and stuff. I don't know. She's likes those a lot. And she's a dumb cat and doesn't or her brain's the size of a walnut, right? So I'm not sure. She just doesn't know that they're birds on TV and she can't get to them. Anyway, so that's what my photos are. And I thought that would go perfect with birds and blossoms. I'm not a bird person. And honestly, spring is not a time of year that I usually have a lot of stuff to scrapbook. I don't usually scrapbook my garden too much. So this is actually a great use of these papers and stuff because Kitty loves birds. So I'm going to go ahead in here and switch to my overhead camera and we will take a look at what we have going on today. All right. So I've got my handout here. You can get that on the website. Remember, these are from the Creative Memories blog. So I have simply just copied the blog directions. There's a QR code up here at the top if you want to be able to go back to the original Creative Memories project or their blog post. And then down here at the bottom, you'll see we have the hashtag for this project, which is Scrapbook Live 0306. So if you do share it on Scrapbooking with Megan, which is my group, you can go ahead and use that hashtag so that other people can find your version of this layout. So lots of fun there. So for this particular layout, I'm pretty much going to follow just what it is. I really thought it was cute with they used the new scallop hearts here with the vellum and the something blue collection. Those are new products, the new wedding collection. So I think it's really fun to do using a mat in here, but you would easily add another photo. We have some 4x6, there's two spots here that are, this bottom photo here is a 4x6. You could peekaboo pocket this. This photo right here is matted on a 4x6 mat. So you could also peekaboo pocket, including that mat in the peekaboo pocket if you wanted to. So if you're looking at this layout saying, oh, there's only 3 photos on here, there are ways to expand it to get some more photos on there, which is always a wonderful thing. And of course, you could always alter how you have your photos set up on here. Instead of using the vertical photo here, like this vertical 4x6, you can print it as a 4x6 collage, maybe have 3 horizontal 3x4s, or however you want to do it. Play around with those collages. There's the Project Life app. If you have that, you can use Pix Collage. That one might put a watermark on there unless you pay the monthly fee to have that watermark removed. Or if you do have something like the Epson PM400 printer, there is the Creative Print app from Epson that will let you make those collages. Okay, so to get started, I mentioned I am going to be using some photos of Kitty enjoying the bird YouTube. And there's a particular channel, this is crazy, like there's a particular channel she likes more than others. I think the birds are more vibrant and up close and whatever. And so it's this one particular channel where they just spread seed on what looks like a concrete tile. Like literally, why didn't I do this? Like, this isn't hard to do, to create this YouTube. This video is just hours of birds eating bird seed, but she likes it. She likes it so much, she decided she was going to try to jump up and get those birds off of the mantle. And my husband had to fetch her from trying to go behind the TV because that's apparently where the birds live. So those are my photos, but you can see here, I am going to be adjusting a little bit how I've got my photos on here. So I went ahead and just printed some 3x4s that I will be putting down the side. So where you see a 4x6 and then it's more of a square photo here, I'm going to be using these 3 photos to show that series where she just tries to get up behind the TV to get those birds. And of course over here where she was just watching so intently. So you can see here how this is going to start to take shape. I have a mat picked out. None of the mats in the Birds and Blossoms really lent themselves to more of a generic saying that I was willing to use. But I liked the floral here, and it says smile, it's spring, but I have cut an oval that I probably will put over the top of that. And I can then use my die cut letters or some stickers to come in with a separate title. So that's the general plan there. But now it's like, okay, what am I using for paper? So I said I was going to use the Birds and Blossoms, and I am going to go with the blue background because I think that's really pretty. So I'm going to have a dark blue, this tonal paper from the collection is going to go in behind. And then they use a stripe paper, the stripe paper out of the Something Blue collection. And then what they do is they take some 1x1 squares of some of the decorative paper that has the floral print to it, and they add those in along the side to give that a little bit more of that floral effect. So what I would be able to do here if I wanted to is if I wanted to mimic that concept, I would come in with the stripe paper from Birds and Blossoms and layer that, have about it's a 1-inch strip on the side. And then I could cut some 1-inch squares maybe out of this floral paper or out of, some of the other designs, and then sprinkle those in along the side to bring in that floral with the stripes. So what I decided to do, because I don't use a lot of floral papers in my day-to-day papers because that's just not kind of my life, my kids and my activities that we do. So when I get the chance to use the floral paper, I'm going to go ahead and use it. And Kitty's perfect for that because, I can use flowers for her. It's fine. And so I am going to actually just go ahead and use this floral paper over here on the side. And I think that works out well, pulls that floral over into the layout with the this piece here, the mat. So let's go ahead and dive in. I kind of talked about the papers. So I guess I do need to talk about, what's going to go over on the side. I went ahead and basically picked out the tonal colors. The opposite side to almost all of these papers out of Birds and Blossoms is tonal. So I'm going to be using the tonal green. They have a light tonal blue, which will be nice. I'll be punching the edges of these. I'm going to be using the scallop dot. Sorry, it's a retired one. I'll talk about that in a minute, why I chose that one. And the opposite side to this they have the bird house paper. It's the light blue is this yellow plaid. I'll be using that as well. And then they have this tonal orange. So I'm going to be using these where you see the vellum stacked here that's punched with a scallop heart. That's where I'm going to be using these tonal colors. And of course, they are all the same colors that are in this floral paper. And so it's going to carry that color scheme over to the side over here. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll work our way through the directions. I'm going to make a couple of adjustments just because I'm going to try to be conserving paper just a little bit. So we are going to be using this blue paper as our base page, and then we need to go ahead and cut a strip of a 1-inch strip of the paper that we want along this outside edge. So I mentioned I'm going to use the floral paper for that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a 1-inch edge or 1-inch piece. You could use a punch on the outside edge. You could use a decorative border. So where they use decorative paper, you can of course adjust that. So yes, it is a 1 by 12-inch strip. I'm going to dry fit everything, meaning I am just going to set it on my page for now, just to make sure that I like everything the way it is. This is where if you have used a paper that you want to break it up a little bit, if you don't want to have everything be the same, you could make some 1-inch squares. So this is in step 3, they talk about cutting 1-inch squares from various papers, and then you would layer them on here in spots to be able to have additional colors and details here. But I'm okay with this for now. I think it's going to be just fine to have the this all be my pattern. I don't feel like I need to add some additional squares in here to break it up at all. I think really what they did over here is because they used that stripe paper, they wanted to bring in some of those floral details over to the stripe, and that was one easy way to do it. I don't feel the need to do that for this particular, my version of the layout. All right, so they do want us to have, we're going to have our mat or our border, or excuse me, the mat, the title mat does come in here and it's going to sit right next to it. Now, as a divider, we will need to have something. They use a sticker. I actually pulled one of the borders out of the border, the laser cut border. And it's the pretty green leaf. It's kind of a bold leaf. I thought that would be a nice divider here. I am going to have a photo right here. It's my 4x6 photo. So here you will see that my border does overlap my, or if you use a sticker, it can overlap your photo. If you want to peekaboo something here and you need to, you can just sneak your, sneak your border or your sticker over a little bit to give you that ability to lift it. I don't need to use peekaboo, so I'm not worried about that. All right, so there's how that's starting to take shape. Now, in step 5 is where they want us to, we need a 5.5 by 11-inch rectangle of the dark green. Well, they use the paper. So whatever I want to use over here, where they use the dark green piece, I'm also using green. And that's going to come in right here. So what I'm going to actually go ahead and do is I'm going to cut this to 5.5 inches wide. 5.5 on the trimmer is all the way to the outside edge of the white part. So let me show you this right here, that white. Not down here on this white, up here on this white. You'll see there's a little bit of a difference, about 1/8 of an inch difference, but you want to make sure 5.5 is that outside edge up here at the top. Now, if you do not have an edge style border maker cartridge that you want to use for this, what you could have done here is we could use a decorative blade on our trimmer. We could tear it. That is an option. One of the things I want to point out for this particular layout, the way they've stacked these is the border is the scallop hearts is a very narrow design on the outside edge. It's not a deep design. So let's compare it to something. I don't know that I have scallop hearts here I don't have it unboxed yet. Starry Border Maker cartridge has a little bit more of a deeper edge to it. You can see here, I've got 2 rows of stars. So if I were to do this, my stars are going to overlap each other. And so it will be difficult to really see the individual, you're going to just start to see a lot of stars overlapping each other. So what I did is I wanted to find a border maker cartridge where I didn't have as much of a deep design, an edge style that didn't have a super deep design. I decided to go with Scallop Dot because it fit with my theme. I felt it fit well. It's not a cartridge I use a ton just because it's a little bit more dainty and feminine. Not a style that I find myself scrapbooking a lot. So it's always fun to go out and use those when I can. So that's why I decided to use Scallop Dot. Another one that might work that's current is you might have some success using poinsettia as well. That one doesn't have a super deep bite to it in terms of the design, doesn't come really far down the paper once you've punched it. But again, you could tear it. You could use a decorative blade on your rotary trimmer. You could try doing the the decorative trimmer, maybe the wave or the swell edge, play around with it a little bit, use scrap paper, maybe just practice a little bit with just some, your packing slips or whatever from Creative Memories. You get just those 8.5 by 11s, you can kind of get a feel for it. But I am going to go ahead, use Scallop Dot. So this edge here, I need to go ahead and punch. I probably should have trimmed this to 8.5 or to the 11 inches first, but I have a confession to make. I have already punched my other 3 colors and trimmed them to 2 inches wide. So I need to trim them all. I want to make sure when I trim them that I trim them all the same so that they line up, that they are all cut, like I cut off 1 inch from the bottom of all of them so that it's equal, I guess. So I want to go ahead and cut this. I'm not shortening it to 11 inches. I may actually stack everything first and then just cut it all at once. That way I know they all line up just perfectly. So the biggest thing I need to do here is I need to make sure when I do put these on here that I have enough space. I still want to see some blue on that outside edge. So I know that I want to end with the yellow. I don't see a lot of blue out there. I know I want to end with the yellow. I don't want my yellow and my blue together because they're 2 light colors. I want them separated a little bit. I liked ending with the yellow because I knew that blue would pop through. And that's the thing to do if I had used my blue and my yellow together, the yellow doesn't pop through very much on that dot. You see on the blue there, that light blue, the yellow dots don't pop through very well. So by putting my light blue next to my yellow, it doesn't give that, there's just not enough contrast is really what I'm trying to say. There's not enough contrast. But if I have the orange on here, there is definitely, you can see even in the video, you can see that there's contrast there. I can see those yellow dots. It's showing the design. The same thing's going to happen when I put the light blue on the orange. Those dots are going to pop through because there's contrast between the tones. And the same thing for the green. There's enough contrast between the blue and the green for everything to pop. And then all I need to do is I want to make sure, I want these tucked together as tightly as possible. And I think that's going to work. Now I need to shorten it still. I still need to take that inch off, but you can see, I can see all of my little scallops all there, nice and pretty. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this off of my paper and I'm going to adhere all these pieces together and then I'll cut it at once. So I do want to point out, guys, this is a fantastic thing about the Creative Memories when we use their collection is because, I mean, literally, these are just as tonal papers. I didn't have to work very hard. It took me like 2 minutes to pick the papers because they're all just right there in the collection. I know they're going to coordinate together. All right, so I'm going to work on my repositionable mat here, or my silicone mat. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my yellow paper over here. I'm going to flip over my orange and apply some adhesive, and I'm going to use the Repo adhesive. I can use a little bit of regular adhesive if I want, just to keep things nice and secure. Now I do want to make sure that I tuck these nice and close together. I do not want my orange to overlap any of my yellow dots, but I want it to really tuck in there so that I have I'm giving myself plenty of room to have as much of the darker blue showing in that layout. Now I'll repeat this with the blue. And like I said, I punched and then cut these all to 2 inches. They say the directions have you start with the 2 by 11 inch pieces of paper and go ahead and punch and be ready to stack them. I just went ahead and cut them or punch them first and then cut them. I don't think it really matters which order you do it in. So you can punch and then cut, or you can cut and then punch. The 2 inches should be wide enough to fit in or to hold in your the paper holder for the Border Maker cartridge. And if it doesn't, remember you can always use Post-it notes to help keep that paper nice and secure, or extend it so that it's nice and secure in the All right, so just putting down the blue, popping nice. I do love that blue on there. It looks so good. The blue, yellow, and orange. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and put on the green paper. And this is a good reminder to myself. I should have noted, because I cut one sheet, didn't even realize that the green was the opposite side of that paper. Oh well, it's all good. Pay attention, I guess, Megan, was what I need to do, is tell myself is to pay attention a little bit more to the sides of the paper. Sometimes we dwell on one side and we cut 2 pieces of paper when they're actually the same thing. I do see a quick question from Vicky. Yeah, I cut off the strap of my silicone mat because it just gets in the way. That's my personal preference. I did it on my light blue one as well. I just don't like those straps. When I'm taking it someplace, I just roll it up and then just toss it wherever. I'm probably not as careful maybe with my silicone mats as I could be, but it's all good. All right, the last piece going on here, this green, it's going to actually be where my photos sit on top of. Okay, so here we go. Now we're starting to see how that looks, but I do need to come in here with my trimmer. I've got to trim off 1 inch. So I'm just going to line it up at 1 inch and cut. Actually, what I'm going to do, 1 inch should be really close to like this middle scallop. So that's what I'm going to line up. I'm going to line up that scallop. I'm cutting off 2 scallops, really, really close to that 1 inch. It's not going to be absolutely perfect. I can see a little bit, but very close. Okay. So that's going to sit in the middle, and I'm pulling all those colors over from my border over here. Now, in terms of putting on my photos, remember I have 3 photos that I'm working with, a little bit different than their original sketch. So I have 3 photos. First of all, I need to make sure they're going to fit. They are 3 inches tall. That's 9 inches. It should work out fine. I should have enough room to even mat my photos. That's going to work out just fine. If I wanted to, it actually looks like I could shrink this down a little bit. I could actually make this piece, instead of being 11 inches, maybe I could go down to 10 3/4. I might do that. What I'm going to do first, though, is I do want to mat all of these photos. They have a thin matte. They use one of the gray tonal papers out of the Something Blue collection to go ahead and mat these two photos, have mats. What I am going to do then is I am going to go ahead and cut some thin mats, and I think I'm going to use the orange paper because Kitty is that lovely orange. She's got that orange reddish undercoat to her. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. My photos are 3 by 4 inches. I'm going to double check that. Sometimes after cutting them down, I get a little crazy and sometimes go a little bit less. But yeah, so we're right at 4 inches wide by 3 inches tall. So they're all 4 by 3, which means I can come here. I want my overall mat to be a 1/4 inch wider than my photos so that I have a 1/8 inch mat all the way around, 1/8 inch exposure. So I'll go ahead, I'm going to come over here. My photos are, I'm going to go the wider width here, because if I did, let's look at this. When you're doing your mats, if I laid my photos like this, they take up the full 12 inches. So I can't just cut them to 3 1/4 inch and then try to get my mats out of it. It's not going to work. But what I can do is I'll be able to go horizontally, and I'll have plenty of room to get those mats. So I will go ahead and bring this out to 4 1/4. So 4 1/4. And then I'll cut these all at 3 1/4. And that should give me mats that have that 1/8 inch exposure. All right, so there's my 3 mats that I need. Those will come in here as such. And just like that little pop. Okay, now one thing I think is seeing here is I'm not 100% certain about this mat, or I'm not certain about the flowers. I do like the flowers, but I feel like maybe it's a little too much up in this corner, right? I just have too much of the floral up here in the corner, and that's what I've got to try to figure out. So I can come back to my mats and figure out if there's another mat that I feel like I could alter. I could, they did the mats a little bit different in this set. They're not where you have one that is horizontal and then the other side is vertical. They did things just a little bit different this time. And so that's okay. I just need to kind of figure out what I think I want to do instead. So they do have one that says "A little bird told me," but I wasn't sure how I could adjust that to Kitty. So I think what I might do is I could come in and I could go, if I'm fine with just covering up the title. Okay, so it says it's the blue on blue. I don't think I would do that. I could also come in, and they do have the larger mats. I could trim down if I felt like I wanted to use some pieces in there. I'm just not 100% sure. Or my option is to adjust this piece here. Maybe what I could do is I could go ahead and, let's see. We're going to play around just a little bit and just see if I can make some adjustments. I'm going to cut this to 1 inch. This is the plaid, the yellow plaid. I do like the yellow in here, so I'm thinking maybe I'll pull in a little more yellow. Come over here and put that in. And then I've got some leftover 1-inch pieces. Remember when I cut that bottom edge off? The opposite side, it is the floral. So what I could do is make some 1-inch squares. Let's see what that looks like. Having a little less of the floral. I do like the floral on that mat, but maybe it's just a little too much all tied over there at once. So I'm just going to cut some different pieces out, some 1-inch pieces, since these are scraps anyways. They were destined for the garbage can. So let me make some adjustments here. This is why we dry fit. And I can just come in here. I've got 4 different ones, 4 pieces. So I would need to kind of put them down the side here, maybe in an even, we'll do 110, I don't know. Just kind of playing around a little bit. I don't really like the blocky feel to it, but maybe I just like the yellow pulled in there. I might just go with the yellow. I really thought that I was going to use that floral over there, but I like the floral up here. I can come in with a really cute, with that yellow or the blue in here. I'm going to go ahead and put my photos on these mats. I like that yellow or the orange. I like that it just pulls out the colors in Kitty's coat. Her official name is Ginger, but we call her Kitty because that's just how my family rolls. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to see if I think I can trim off a little bit. I think I've got enough space in here that I'm going to go ahead and just trim off 1/4 of an inch. Actually, I'm going to trim 1 scallop off the bottom. So 1 scallop, which should be about 1/2 inch. That's going to give me a little bit more blue showing. And I actually think I'm actually going to go ahead and trim off a little bit on this side too. So I have a little more blue over here. All right. So maybe I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to space my photos on here and just see how much I feel that I can cut off. So I feel like I can come in probably with something like 1/4 of an inch that I'll trim off. Yep, I'm going to cut off 1/4 inch on the green. 1/4 inch is just to that where that gray cutting mat meets the white. Just narrowed it up just a little bit. And I think we'll be good. So I'm going to start assembling. First, I'm going to go ahead and put this yellow piece on. I am content with that yellow. This blue tonal paper has a little bit of a direction to it. It has the illusion of like some raindrops. So I just did make sure that it is, you know, the little plump part of the drop is on the downward side. You don't see a ton of the paper, but that's just something maybe to note. Go ahead and put down the mat. The mat and the photo both abut, they go right next to that 1-inch piece. Get the photo on there. I do agree. I see Teresa's comment that the colors on the screen don't quite match the colors in the floral. The colors on the screen were obviously a little more pink and purple. I actually was debating whether or not I needed to go grab last year's Painted Garden. I thought that would probably blend a little bit better, but I hadn't used this one and I wanted to get it out and play with it. So it doesn't match as great as it could have, but I think it's going to work fine. And then we come here, I'll go ahead and put this piece on. It does butt up right next to these other pieces that we've already put in place. I love it when they're easy to assemble like this. I am going to make sure that my layout is on my cutting mat because I am trying to make sure that I'm centered top to bottom. I cut off 1.5 inches, so I should be 3/4 inch from the top and 3/4 inch from the bottom, which looks to be about where it is. And I'll go ahead and stick some adhesive on here and we'll put this piece down. All right, so we're going to go 3/4 inch from the top and the bottom. Now, I got to make sure I put these photos on in the right way. I do have to laugh. You guys will enjoy this. I'm looking at this photo. I'm like, what is she sitting on? And I just happen to catch her like mid-jump. Like she's got her feet tucked in there and she is ready to just pounce on that. That shelf is not wide. It is not a deep mantle at all. And so like there's no room for her up there. She is a Maine Coon. There's no way she's going to fit, but she got up in there and she was trying to find those birds. She was bound and determined. And we ruined her poor little dreams and made her get down. When I put my layouts on here, I put regular adhesive on the back. What I'm going to do though is I'm not going to push them down. As long as that will allow me to do the spacing with adhesive in place, but I won't push them down. I find that that works okay with the regular adhesive. They don't seem to, until you put a little bit of pressure on there, they don't seem to stick too much. That'll be like my famous last words though. All right, so the goal here is to get even spacing. I want, usually what I do is I'll try to space the top and the bottom. That will work. I'm looking for maybe an even margin up here at for the green around that corner. Seeing the same down here. I could also get out my T-square and double check that everything's lined up, but that's looking pretty good. Once I have my spacing the way I like it, I will go ahead and start pushing down, putting pressure on that adhesive to get it to stick. Now, the last thing I need to do for our video here probably is I'm going to go ahead and put down this border over here. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I don't think, are they two different colors? They might be two different colors. One's a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. I think I'll use the little bit lighter side. So I'm going to put adhesive on the slightly darker side. Now, this is a delicate border. All right, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's a delicate border, this viney thing here with the leaves, right? It is, when you're taking it out of the package, I've already got a little bit of a bend here that's making it delicate. So when I put on my repositionable adhesive, I'm going to be very careful so that I don't pull it apart. You could also use your glue pen and just come in and put some dots on all those leaves. Let it dry. Remember, we let it go to tacky to clear. It becomes tacky, and then you could put it on your layout. But I'm going to go ahead and just use repositionable adhesive, and I'm just going to go carefully down it, putting my finger in there as some support, not being too crazy. There we go. And I will put it right over that seam to cover up the divide between the two. There we go. Just getting it in place a little bit to make sure, what I'm looking for is just to make sure that at the top and the bottom, that I'm not going to be having to cut off too much here at the bottom, and it's not like a major amount of here at the top. Those 12-inch borders are right at the 12-inch, usually having to make sure you get it spaced there correctly. Okay, now my last thing is I need to adjust this title. Now, I am not sure how I'm going to adjust the title because right now I don't even know what I'm going to have it say. I could come in just, it does fit. I cut a circle. I think I used a circle number, or excuse me, oval number 4 red blade inside track to cut that oval. I'm actually thinking what I will probably do here is come in with some blue. Let me see if I have a scrap. Oh, the blue that I could use is the super beautiful Starry Night Shimmer. And I want to make like a little ring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the blue and the green blades. So let me get those out. I'm going to cut with the blue blade first. All right, leaving everything in place. I have not moved my anything, and I want to go ahead and use my green blade, and I'm going to cut a thin piece here, a thin oval ring that will kind of become a little frame inside that oval. Just a nice little detail. The Starry Shimmer does have a similar tone as the dark blue there. So you can see it has that dark bit. Now, the other thing I could do is I may actually, when I start figuring out what it's going to say, I may reverse this. I actually might cut an oval out of the Starry Shimmer, the full oval, and then do a light oval. And then I could use like a lighter colors. Oh, I might do that. I don't know. Sometimes when it comes to those titles is where I really just start playing with what I have and figuring out what I want it to say. I didn't do a good job cutting on this one. Go ahead and trim that around there. Oh, I think I'm going to like that better. And then this is baby blue. And I had a scrap of baby blue that I think I could cut the rings from. And I just have to find it. So I think I'm going to cut the ring out. And then what I'll be able to do is also cut the, well, I don't know. It disappeared on my, oh, there it is. My mad dash to get my desk ready for this event is always, again, I'm going to make that ring just like I did before. So I'll start with the blue. The blue blade, excuse me, blue blade. This is oval number 4. Keeping everything in place, grabbing my green blade now, and that's going to give me that thin ring. And it just, like I said, acts as a little bit of a frame. It just makes it a little, I don't know, I want to say sophisticated. Maybe that's not the right word, but it just elevates it, I think, a little bit. And then I could come in with white letters if I wanted to. I like that. So I covered up that title that wasn't useful for me. It didn't really pertain to my, and maybe I could still put in a little paw print in here somewhere. If I wanted to use my paw punch, I could definitely come in with that. I could just come in here, you know, at the bottom with a little bit of journaling and just say, Kitty loves the birds on the YouTube, and she had to try to get them, and she had no success. So that, I think, is my layout for now. I'm going to make those final adjustments, figure out my lettering situation, and go from there. So hopefully you guys had a chance to follow along, or you have some ideas that you're going to use when you sit down next to Scrapbook and give this layout a try. It really is a pretty, I don't know. I like it. I like that it was pretty straightforward to do. You just have to find the right type of border maker cartridge. Now, one thing you could do is if you have one that has a little bit more of a deep bite to it. So I showed you Starry, and it has a little bit deeper bite to the design. Instead of using 4 colors, use 3. instead of, if you need to, just use two colors. You're just wanting to overlap them on that edge so that you have, have that little bit of a design to it. So that's just something to keep in mind. And of course, if it doesn't work, if you just need one, like I could imagine maybe you have hiking pictures and you want to use boot prints. Well, that's just going to be one strip down the side there. And that's fantastic. Make it work for you. You just have that kind of that design on that side of the page. You can rotate it. You can do whatever you need to get it to work with your photos. You've got some options to peekaboo. And I showed you how, if you don't have photos that work in terms of like, I needed to get 3 photos in rather than 2 on that one column next to the punched parts. Make your adjustments. It's easy. It can be easy enough to do depending on how your photos crop down. The other option is you would be able to, if you needed to, expand this to 2 pages. You can, that 1-inch strip that we did, take that same color and carry it over to the page preceding it or the page after. Maybe you're going to rotate the whole thing. So lots of options to be able to do with this one that you can customize it for what you need. So just a reminder, if you do put it together and you share it on Scrapbooking with Meggan, which is my group, I would love to have you do that. It'd be fantastic. Use the hashtag that's at the bottom of the handout. And then in terms of announcements, like I mentioned before we got started, I think before I started recording, this weekend is the Creative Memories virtual crop. So there'll be 4 sketches shared on the Creative Memories blog this Friday. There is a lovely PDF handout you'll be able to download. We're in the final few days of free shipping on the Creative Memories website. So if there's stuff you need, this could be a great time to go ahead and grab it. I would wait until after Noreen is on this afternoon. Sometimes she has, January and February, we've had some kind of little promo that pops up for virtual crop. So there might be something that's going to pop up. I'm pretty certain there's going to be something. I don't know what it will be. So hold on for Noreen to give us those clues or pay attention to, or as soon as I find out, I will put it on my Facebook page. I will be back next week with Scrapbook Live again. I'm super excited for next week. I have had several people reach out to me in the virtual crop. I really should have done it for this particular week, but I didn't think about it in time. I have had people that reach out to me always wanting to know, how do I take a 12 by 12 sketch and how do I convert it down to 8 by 8 or 7 by 7? Or how do I take it to 8.5 by 11, or working in the happy album and they need that 10 by 6 3/4. We're going to talk about that next week. I'm hopefully going to have what is a helpful resource for you to be able to do that. So next week, we are going to talk about, I'll try to have some samples for us to actually put together, but I will be walking you through how you would use this resource I'm going to have for you guys to do that, because I know a lot of you are trying to use up old product, especially if you are working with 7 by 7, that's an old product, but you've got those 7 by 7 albums and you want to use them. So how do you translate a 12 by 12 layout down to a 7 by 7? Or if you like what they've done, and you want to convert it to happy album, maybe you're working in those. So that will be the resource that we'll talk about next week. So that's the plan. This Friday is a preview Friday. It's going to be the baby collection. If you guys have not already figured, or have not already had a chance, you're going to want to, I'll share it on my Facebook page. I think I've shared it before. The new catalog, there's a digital version of it. It has the baby collection in there. I can't remember what it's called, but it's coming out on Monday. And so be paying attention or looking forward to having the full preview of that. It's always fun. We get to see the products in the catalog, but we don't get to see what they made with it. They always make such wonderful things. I mean, like even what we put together today, they have Creative Memories puts together these layouts for us to show us how to use the products. And those are always wonderful to see. Sometimes it's hard to get an idea from just the patterns of the papers, what it could all do together. And so that's what Creative Memories puts things together for us, so we can get some ideas of how the papers work with each other. So that's coming up. We'll have all that information on Friday. And if there's any other mid-month specials or anything like that going on starting next week, we'll finish up free shipping. That ends on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central. That is the same time that we will find out what's coming on Monday. So I think that's all I have for you guys today. I will see you all next week. I cannot wait to see what you guys do for the virtual crop. I am going to be busy packing and all that stuff. We're coming into this. We plan to have our house, I think, on the market at the beginning of May, but April is a really bad month, and we start baseball this and lacrosse and all this stuff. So spring chaos has started at my house, and in some reason, I'm going to be trying to pack up my house, getting it ready to sell all in the middle of that. All right. Take care, everyone. I will see you next week. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out for me. My life might be chaos, but my phone, I always know where it is to be able to try to respond to messages. Doing my best to help you as I can. All right. Take care. I will see you all next week.